My hay baler was sinking $9,000 worth of steel half submerged in brown water, leaning sideways like a shipwreck in a field that had been bone dry 8 hours earlier. I stood there with coffee still warm in my hand, boots sliding into mud that smelled like wet clay and rotten roots. That was when I understood Margot Whitfield's handwritten note for what it really was, not a misunderstanding, but a decision to dump her problem on my land and hope I was too quiet to fight back. My name is Everett, and what matters here isn't my biography, it's the ground. 43 acres on the rural edge of central Virginia, bought by my grandfather in 1961 for $11,000 and a handshake. My father ran cattle on it. I run hay lease pasture and keep a garden. The back of the property slopes into a natural drainage swale, a low stretch of earth that has spent 60 years carrying rain toward a seasonal creek and leaving the rest of my field alone. About a quarter-mile away sits Ashford Crossing, a 214-home subdivision built where a farm used to be. Matching roofs, fake country fences, clubhouse nobody uses. Their HOA was run by Margot Whitfield, silver bob pearl earrings, white Lexus, and the exact kind of confidence small people develop when nobody has checked them in a while. I wasn't in, her HOA didn't answer to her rules, and I think that bothered her almost as much as my land did. I'd watched her fine people over nonsense. A wind chime, a trash can left out too long, shutters that were too burgundy. She liked control the way some people like sugar a little wasn't enough. Then the certified letter showed up. HOA, letterhead, polished language, all very official. Ashford. Crossing it said, intended to submit a stormwater easement application that would redirect some of the neighborhood's overflow through the southern edge of my property for regional drainage management. The word cooperative appeared 4 times. The word compensation never showed up once. I made the mistake decent people make. I assumed good faith would meet good faith. I wrote back, politely explained that my swale handled natural runoff, not engineered subdivision discharge, and said I'd discuss alternatives if they wanted to do this the right way. 3 weeks passed. Nothing. Then a county code officer named Dexter knocked on my door with a hearing notice. The HOA had already filed for a drainage variance. According to the application, notice had been provided. According to reality, they had mailed 1 letter and bulldozed right past my response. So I went to the hearing. Clean shirt type statement, photographs, a diagram of the field. Margot brought a color-printed engineering report and a little cheering section of residents. I asked for time to get an independent hydrology review. She stood up and said, community benefit enough times to make a preacher blush. The board voted 4-1 in her favor. The one man who voted no caught me in the parking lot and said very quietly, get yourself a water rights attorney. That's how Cornelia Voss entered the story. Cornelia was sharp, calm, and very good at sounding patient while telling you something painful. Don't sue yet, she said. Let them finish. Let the rain prove it. That advice felt cruel, because within weeks a contractor showed up with a mini excavator and cut a drainage channel along my southern boundary. Fresh dirt, diesel fumes, metal teeth biting into earth, all of it legal on paper and wrong in my bones. I documented everything. Then I waited. August stayed dry. The new channel trickled. For a minute I wondered if maybe Margot's expensive report would save her. Then she sent me another letter, warmer this time, hoping we could move past the misunderstanding, and inviting me to the neighborhood cookout as her personal guest. Cornelia looked at it once and laughed. She's building a paper trail, she said. Don't answer. So while Margot played gracious on stationery, I started digging. I pulled Ashford Crossing's original subdivision approval from the county clerk's office and found the first real crack in her story. The original stormwater plan required all drainage to stay inside the development's own retention system. No discharge onto neighboring agricultural land. Then Cornelia brought in Gareth Finch, a semi-retired hydrologist. Gareth walked my lower field, checked the new channel, and found 2 things. First, in a serious rain event that redirected water would back-saturate about 2 acres of my field. Second, one section of the new channel crossed 16 inches over my property line. September came in wet. I was driving home through a stalled tropical system when I crested the rise above my back field and saw open water where hay ground should have been. Fence posts half underwater. The drainage channel running like a fire hose. My baler sunk up to the hubs and listing hard to one side. I stood there in the rain taking pictures while the whole field smelled like swamp and machinery. Then I called Cornelia. How bad, she asked. My baler's underwater, I said. She went quiet for half a beat, then said, perfect. We file Monday. That lawsuit hit them hard. Drainage, tort, nuisance, trespass, property damage, violation of the original stormwater covenant. Their insurance attorney called within days trying to settle cheap and fast. Cornelia answered with a number high enough to make him sit down. And then Margot made the mistake that changed everything. Instead of keeping quiet, she mailed a letter to my neighbors calling me difficult, calling the lawsuit frivolous and suggesting the whole thing was just one man's grievance. She signed it as HOA president on official letterhead like authority could turn a lie into fact. Dale laughed when he showed me his copy. Earl Puit, the same veteran she'd fined over a trash can, came by and asked what I needed. Tobias and Renata Okonkwo, who ran a farm stand nearby, called and said the HOA had been giving them trouble too. Margot thought she was isolating me. What she actually did was introduce me to my witnesses. Renata had files. Earl had local connections. Gareth kept studying the water. Cornelia kept digging through county records. And then she found the real bomb buried in the paperwork. Ashford Crossing's retention pond had originally been approved to handle a 25-year storm event, but what got built only handled a 10-year event. Then Gareth found something worse. By forcing runoff into my saturated lower field, they weren't just flooding me, they were shifting groundwater pressure back toward the lowest homes in the subdivision Willowmere Court. In plain English, the water Margot sent onto my land was going to work its way right back under her neighborhood. Cornelia warned their attorney in writing. One clean chance to fix it. They ignored it, so I got methodical. I installed soil moisture sensors in the field, had the property line resurveyed, filed a civil trespass notice, and got the Agricultural Extension Office to document how long saturated clay soil takes to recover. Then the late fall rains came. My field flooded again, and this time the sensors logged everything. At the same time, 3 basements on Willowmere Court took water. Wet drywall ruined appliances, concrete floors slick under bare feet. One homeowner, Fitzgerald, knocked on my door looking confused and exhausted. I sat him at my kitchen table and showed him the file. He read for an hour, looked up and said, I think I need my own lawyer. That was when the story stopped being mine alone. Now there were multiple homeowners with damage, a hydrologist with models, a surveyor with proof of trespass, a warning letter the HOA had ignored, and a county supervisor named Whitaker Gaines asking whether the subdivision had ever been compliant in the first place. And still Margot couldn't stop herself. She tried to question whether my hay operation was a legal agricultural use. That stunt died fast under Virginia's right to farm protections. Then she called Gareth directly and tried to scare him off his report. What she forgot was that Virginia is a one-party consent state. Gareth recorded the call. By January, the whole thing had turned. The county board meeting was packed warm from radiators, everybody pretending they were there for routine business until the file started getting read aloud. Margot sat in the third row, immaculate as ever. Whitaker Gaines read the administrative review into the record. The county had confirmed the retention pond was built at only 70% of its approved capacity. The variance that allowed runoff onto my land had been granted based on a drainage system already out of compliance with its own permit conditions. The variance was rescinded. The HOA was ordered to bring the pond into compliance at HOA expense. The room went dead quiet. Then somebody from Willowmere Court asked whether the HOA had been warned before the basement flooding. Gaines confirmed the county had a copy of Cornelia's warning letter. Fitzgerald stood up, read from his notes, and calmly laid the whole thing bare. The final blow came from the board chair, Supervisor Holloway. She asked Margot one simple question, whether as a member of the county planning subcommittee she had access to the original Ashford Crossing site plan documents. Margot tried to dodge it. Holloway wrote something down and said she was requesting a conflict of interest review. That was the real sound of karma, not thunder, not shouting, just a pen moving across paper in a silent room. Margot resigned from the planning subcommittee 11 days later. She resigned as HOA president the next month. The civil case settled 3 weeks after that. I got $212,000 full soil remediation restoration of my property, removal of the drainage channel, and a written retraction sent to every person who got her letter. The Willowmere Court homeowners settled separately. The HOA still had to pay to retrofit the retention pond. By spring, crews were out in my lower field regrading and aerating clay that had been smothered by somebody else's arrogance. By May, the channel was gone. By summer, the hay came back cleaner. The sensors are still out there logging every rain, partly because the data matters, partly because I enjoy the reminder that water tells the truth whether people do or not. And that's the lesson that stayed with me. Power usually doesn't arrive looking evil. Most of the time it shows up looking efficient, reasonable official. It calls damage management and theft community benefit. It counts on you being tired, polite, or intimidated. But sometimes the smartest thing a person can do is stay calm, keep records, and let reality testify. So let me ask you this, when somebody abuses a title, a permit, or a board seat to hurt other people, is it justice when they finally pay for it? Or does it become revenge the second you start enjoying the fallout? Tell me what you think. Tell me what you would have done. And if you've ever dealt with an HOA zoning board or power-hungry neighbor, drop your story too. I'd genuinely like to hear it.